Welcome back. Now, stage 8 power cuts may become a reality. Eskom says striking workers added to its inability to provide sufficient electricity, while Bonga Maliwa from Future Growth Asset Management says the situation can be turned around. He joins us now to explain this further. Bonga, thank you very much for your time here on All Angles. Now, of course, we've had so many plans since 2019, and I just want to mention a few of them. And at some point, we had the unbundling plan that was announced by government. We had the integrated resource plan. We also had the emergency power procurement plan. So all of these plans look good on paper, right? But none of them have helped us so far.
Yeah, I want to thank you first to be on the show. So yeah, in terms of the plans that the government has had, like you've highlighted, they've been good on paper, but the problem has been implementation. And yeah, so the biggest problem essentially is implementation, and because of that, we're 2 to 3 years behind what we had planned in terms of the new power schedule. Yeah.
And Bonga, this looks like the culture of our government. I mean, even before our first blackouts in 2008, we were warned before about maintaining infrastructure, refurbishing and building more, and they ignored that. Now they have plans of their own that they ignore themselves, etc. So you're saying that we can avoid stage 8 load shedding. We're currently at stage 6, which means we're 1 stage away from a national blackout. Please share with us what you think government can do right now to make sure that we don't get to that point.
Yeah, I just want to highlight that there are no actually short-term solutions to the problem, but there are some short-term wins that the government could actually implement, and this doesn't require new regulations to be published by the government. It's essentially just using what we've already been laid out by Eskom and the Department of Energy. I think one of the first things that the government could do is to fast-track the restructure of Eskom through the transmission company. That will allow them to procure power essentially from private parties. And then also those private parties could also contribute to fixing the transmission grid with Eskom. So that's the first thing that the country could do. The second thing is to essentially fast-track also the closing of round 5 projects, because so in round 5 we procured above 2 gigawatts of power, but none of those projects have reached financial close. And the reasons for that is because there's been substantial costs for renewable projects. And one of the solutions the government can actually implement there is to do some sort of price adjustment because of the interest in the input costs essentially for that round. So that doesn't require the government essentially to go out and issue a new round, but that is a short-term solution that they can implement. The last solution that they can also implement immediately is around the lower threshold for private power production by eNCA. In terms of that solution, there's a couple of projects already that have been approved by eNCA for private power production. One thing that the government could do there is to simplify the process for those private power partners essentially to come into the grid and reduce our reliance essentially on Eskom.
And these are, these solutions that you're giving us right now are things that government should know. I mean, some of them are coming from the projects that have already, like you said, been approved by NERSA. So, when it comes to the IPPs, the independent power producers, they've recently said that they've identified 18 who still need to sign their contracts, etc., with Eskom. But also there's been complications there because our government took so long. Now there's complications in terms of the supply of, some of the material that they'll need. Now they have to go internationally to do that. So won't that also just take us years to arrive to?
Yeah, I think there is a short-term solution around that because like I've already highlighted around the interest in the input costs for those renewable projects. So one thing that the government could do to essentially solve that blockage for round 5 is to do like a once-off price adjustment on the round 5 projects. Because of the low bidding for that round, essentially, it has been a problem for those projects to essentially to close to reach financial close, and it's because of the input costs that have gone up. So having those projects already being approved by the IPP office, so I think it will be simpler instead of going through another round to just do a price adjustment on those projects that have already been approved for commission. Yeah.
Banga, just help myself and the list and the viewers out here, because obviously we are in panic right now. We are at stage 6 load shedding from 4 p.m. for a second day. The last time we saw a stage 6 was back in December of 2019. We were told that government would try everything not to go back there. 3 years later, it looks like we're regurgitating instead of going forward. So realistically, all these plans that you have just discussed with me right now, can they be done to find the solution at least in the next 12 months? Or should I, and others, unfortunately, who can, at least in terms of having the finances, should we just start looking at finding our own alternatives and not rely on Eskom anymore at all?
Yeah, even the plans that I've highlighted, right, they focus on having private parties producing the power. So I don't think that the issue of load shedding is going to be resolved in the next 12 months, unfortunately, because even with round 5 projects, even with the emergency round projects that we got approved, there needs to be a construction period for those projects, and hence why there's an agency for the government to act and Eskom to act to get those projects over the line. So the longer we wait, the more negative impact we're going to have on the economy. And I think the focus should be to essentially try and find a way to actually close the recent round projects that have been approved. Yeah.
Bonga, thank you very much for speaking to us here on All Angles. Well, South Africa, it looks like we're on our own. If you can, and if you're fortunate enough to be able to even think about the finances around getting an inverter or a generator, etc., I suggest you do so, because this problem is going to stay with us for quite some time.